Good morning and welcome to Monday Morning Maths. So we have finished coordinates. We've been working on that last week, coordinates and translation, and we're now moving on to perimeter. So looking at our measure and our shapes in order to be able to calculate perimeter. So our learning objective today is to be able to explain how to calculate the perimeter of squares and rectangles. So we're starting there today with squares and rectangles. We will look at some other shapes as well over the course of the week, but we're going to start with squares and rectangles and really understanding how to calculate that perimeter. So success criteria for today, being able to use a ruler to measure the length of sides of rectangles and squares in centimetres, and we're going to do a little bit of revision of how we accurately measure. I can add the measurements of sides together to calculate the perimeter, so we're using our adding skills today, building on that knowledge that we've gathered earlier on in the year, using our known facts, finding the easiest way to do things. I can add the given lengths of sides together to calculate the perimeter of scaled drawings in metres. So scaled drawings means that when we draw them actually two sides. So for example, sometimes if we're in class and I'm drawing on the board, I'll draw a square and write 5 metres, but I know that square actually isn't 5 metres long. That's a not to scale drawing, whereas today we are actually looking at drawings that are to scale. So we're going to start off with a little bit of revision, measuring in centimetres. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the camera around, just do a quick how-to on accurate measuring and using a ruler correctly so that you can get the best possible measurements, and talking to you about how you print off your sheet to make sure that it's to scale. So I'm going to do that, and then it's going to come back to the PowerPoint and we'll carry on from there. Okay, so your first activity this morning, just to get us back into the idea of measuring, is having a go at measuring the lines on this sheet. Now it's really important when you print this sheet out, there's some instructions on the PDF when you open it to show you how to make sure that you're printing to the right size. Otherwise, when you measure the lines, it won't match up with the answers on the screen if this isn't to scale. So it says here, if you've got Adobe Reader, for example, about how to make sure that it is the right size. Otherwise, if I put my ruler on and it's not actually 5 centimetres, I'm not going to get my answer right. Okay, so there are 3 different types of if you're printing it from the web browser, from a Foxit reader, or from Adobe or Adobe Acrobat. Okay, so follow those instructions just to help you print it out correctly. So I'm just going to run through with you, reminding you how to measure accurately, and then you need to do this and check your answers. So I'm just going to do an example on number 1 for you. So I've got my ruler here. Okay, and I'm going to be using this side of my ruler, which is my centimetres. So depending on what type of ruler you've got at home, so if you can see on the other side of my ruler, I've actually got inches, and that's not going to help me. I need to make sure that I'm using the centimetres side of my ruler. Okay, now when I am measuring my line, I'm going to turn it sideways so you can see I'm doing it. I need to make sure that the 0, so the very beginning long line here of my ruler, matches up with the very beginning of my line here. Okay, if it doesn't, then when I measure to the other end to work out how long it is, I'm not going to be, if I start like this, for example, okay, I'm not going to be measuring accurately. So make sure when you measure the line, your ruler is sitting exactly on it like this. Now, all of the measurements are to a whole centimetre, so you don't need to be worrying about measuring a half or measuring the individual millimetres. The line will actually make a full round centimetre. Okay, so if it is slightly above or slightly below, I would read to the nearest whole centimetre. Okay, make sure your ruler sits along the line but doesn't cover it up. If I cover it up like this, it's going to be very hard to read, but it's also not going to give me an accurate answer. Okay, so 0 right at the beginning of the line, lining up my ruler with the line and working out how long it is. Have a go at doing each one, okay, and see how you get on, and the answers are on the second slide of the PowerPoint. They are also on the back of this sheet, so I have actually put the answers in there for you too. Not going to have them showing for too long, so measure them and then come back to the video, and you'll carry on with today's lesson. Okay, so hopefully you've done your measuring in centimetres, you've rehearsed how to use a ruler really accurately, feeling quite confident with that. We're going to move on with perimeter in centimetres today. Okay, so perimeter, the meaning of perimeter is the distance all the way around the outside of something, and that might be my shape here, or it could be the perimeter of the school field, so all the way around the outside of the field, for example, the perimeter of the school hall, the perimeter of your garden, the perimeter of your bedroom. It means the distance all the way around the outside. So I start at one point, travelling all the way around and coming back to my start point. It's really important. It must make a complete circuit. If I don't get a complete circuit, then it's not the perimeter, because it's not all the way around, okay? So to measure perimeter, we measure the length of all the sides of a shape and then add the measurements together, so using our adding skills. Okay, so for example, my rectangle here is 11 centimetres and 4 centimetres, 11 centimetres, 4 centimetres. So I'm measuring centimetres at the moment. So I know that with a rectangle I have 2 longer sides and 2 shorter sides, and the 2 longer sides are the same length and the 2 shorter sides are the same length. Okay, so they are identical and they are identical. Okay, so 11 and 11, 4 and 4. So in order to be able to find the perimeter, I need to add all that together. So if I was, say for example, a person walking around the outside of my rectangle, I'm going to start in a corner and I'm going to walk all the way around. Okay, and sometimes when you're doing perimeter, a really good idea is to do a little indication of where you started, so you know which edges you've already counted. So I could draw myself a little circle in the corner here and know that I've gone around here. So I've done 11 centimetres, add 4 centimetres, add 11 centimetres, add 4 centimetres. Now, our quick maths means that we know that 1 and 4 make 5. So 11 and 4 must make 15. So I've got 11 add 4 is 15, 11 add 4 is 15, 2 lots of 15 is 30. Okay, so that's my quick maths. I'm finding quick ways to be able to put those numbers together to be able to find the perimeter. The other way I could do it, 11 and 11 is 22, 4 and 4 is 8, and I know that 22 add 8 is 30. Okay, so always looking for those shortcuts. So, perimeter in centimetres again, calculate the perimeter of this shape. So what I'd like you to do, before you carry on through this slide, I would like you to work out the perimeter of this shape. So I've got 2 sides that are 5 centimetres, 2 sides that are 7 centimetres. So if I was going to find a nice quick way of doing this, again, I've got 2 sides that are 5 centimetres, and 5 and 5 we know is, that's right, it's 10, okay? So we've got 5 and 5 is 10, 7 and 7, we know our 7 times table, 2 lots of 7, 14. So 14, add 10, my perimeter should be 24, okay? And if I want to, I can do some jottings and write that down to help me. So you should be able to work that out nice and quickly. So again, 5 add 7, add 5, add 7 equals 24, and I know I'm correct, so I've got the right answer. So, little question for you. Does it matter which order you add the lengths in? Have a little think. When I was adding mine up, I was going 5 add 5. But I told you at the beginning that finding the perimeter is adding up all the way around. So, do I need to add in order, or can I use the quickest method? Okay? As long as I add all of the lengths together, doesn't matter which order I add them in. Okay? I can all add them in whatever order I find easiest. So, the answer to that question is no. You can see here, 7 add 7 add 5 add 5 is 24. 5 add 5 add 7 add 7 is 24. 5 add 7 add 5 add 7 is 24. As long as I add all of those edges, I know that I found the perimeter. Again, like I said to you, when I sometimes do a little start point so I know where I started and then work my way back round to it, the other sensible thing to do is to keep track of which sides you've already added. So if I've done 5 add 5, I might like to cross those off to say that I've done it, and then when I've done 7 add 7, I could cross those off to say that I've done it. Because as the shapes get more complex and there's more sides to add up, it's good to have these processes and strategies in place to be able to help you with those more complex problems. Okay, so it's good to get into good routines now. So what you're going to do, you're not going to do it with a partner unless you've got a partner at home. You can still do this independently, it's completely up to you. If you've got someone at home to help you, great. If you haven't, crack on independently. You're going to have a go at this calculating perimeter sheet. So this is my sheet here. I've got my calculating perimeter, okay? And I can calculate the perimeter of squares and rectangles. Now again, just like the measuring length sheet, it does give you a little explanation of how to make sure that it's to scale, because we do need to make sure that this line is the same as 5 centimetres if I measure it with my ruler. Otherwise, when you measure this and come to work out the answers, your answers won't match the answer sheet, okay? So do make sure that you've looked at how to print it out to get it to scale, otherwise it's not going to marry up, okay? So you might need a bit of help from mums or dads or whoever's at home helping you to make sure that's printed out accurately, okay? So if you need any help with that, if you're having any problem with that, do let us know, and we'll try and come back to you as quick as possible to be able to help you, okay? But do remember your teachers are in class teaching, so they won't be able to respond immediately, okay? So calculating perimeter sheet first. So got my answers there ready to mark my work when I'm ready, and a couple of questions just to help you think about how you can get to the answer. So, perimeter in metres. So we've done a little bit of centimetres work, now we're doing perimeters in metres. The principle for finding the perimeter is exactly the same. There's no change. The way in which I go about it is exactly the same. But what I have to make sure of is that when I'm writing my answers, I'm using the correct unit of measure. So when I've done my answers to the previous questions, I would have centimetre in them, whereas in this one I'm going to have metre, and that unit of measure is really important. Otherwise the person drawing it or the person reading it won't have a clue what you've measured in. So if you said to someone, oh, can you make me a cricket pitch that's 43, has a perimeter of 43, but you don't tell them if it's centimetres or metres or kilometres, you can then end up with either a very tiny cricket pitch or a very massive cricket pitch. So we do need to make sure we use that unit of measure. So this is Farmer Fred's field. He has one side that's 20 metres and one side that's 10 metres. So straight away I'm thinking, right, my rectangle, I know that this must be 20 metres because these two are the same, and this one is 10 metres because these two are the same, okay? So if Farmer Fred wanted to replace the fence around the field, what length of fencing would he need? So we're going to use our quick maths. 20 add 20, double 20, 40, double 10, 20. I need to add those two back together. So 40 add 20 is 60. Let's see if we're correct. Answer, 20 add 20 add 10 add 10 is 60 metres. He would need 60 metres of fencing. And I need to give myself a little bit of feedback there, that I need to remember to make sure I put metres on the end, because I said 20 and 20, 10 and 10 is 60. Didn't say what unit of measure, and that's just what I was telling you about. So my next one, I'm going to make sure that I use the unit of measure. Okay, so I'm still making sure I've got all my perimeter, but I'm using quick maths to be able to help me. So, perimeter in metres. So now a little challenge for you. In your books you can just go through A, B, C and D and see if you can work out the perimeter of these shapes. Now do remember I've got metres on here and I'm going to need to have that in my book. These ones here where I've got a 0.5, that's obviously a half, so this is 8.5 metres. Okay, and remember 2 halves make a whole. So I've got 8.5 and 8.5. So I've got 8 and 8 is 16, half and half is 1, so it'd be a total of 17, okay? So just remembering that a little bit. Work out your answers to these and then check your answers, okay? I'm not going to go through them. You're going to do that independently, and then if you have a look, the answers are on there to help you. So finally, coming to your activity. So just as always, you'll be used to this now. You've got your 1-star, 2-star, 3-star challenge. You choose what level of challenge you need. Again, same as with the other ones, you do need to make sure that you have printed your sheets out to scale, otherwise it won't work. And the answers are there for you to be able to mark it at the end. If you finish that really quickly and you're feeling really confident with it, there is an extension there for you, but don't spend longer on the maths than it says on the timetable. Okay, you don't have to get the extension done. It's there to challenge you if you need it, or to push yourself, get your thinking about this really working at that higher order. So you're going to do the worksheet at your right challenge if you want to go on to the extension. Remember what I said last week, if you find that the level of challenge you've chosen isn't hard enough, don't continue and have an easy ride of it. Stop. Challenge yourself to go on to the next one, or conversely, if you're finding it too hard, just stop for a minute and go back to the other one. Okay, go down a challenge level. Okay, use your judgment. You know you're in charge of your learning, you're in charge of your pace where you should be, but you should always be looking to push your learning as far as possible. Okay, if we're getting absolutely everything correct 24/7, we're not really pushing our knowledge any further, and that's what we want to be doing. Okay, so that's our first lesson on perimeter. all finished. Looking at rectangles and squares, hopefully a little bit of revision in there for you. We're going to be coming back to perimeter tomorrow. We're doing perimeter all week. Have any problems at all, do let us know, and I look forward to moving on to more perimeter problems with you tomorrow.